Hey, thanks for tuning in to Action Media Reviews. Are you guys ready for a total game changer in the 3.75-inch O-ring custom action figure world? I mean, when I say total game changer, I mean that it is a total, complete game changer for the way custom figures can be made or are made. And that comes down to Lone Wolf Toys. So I know that there are other people doing this. Lone Wolf Toys is the one that's out there prominent to me and the one that I've actually talked to and purchased figures from. So I'm going to show you a couple of head sculpts here. Imagine Tomax and Xamot as female figures, the twins as women. These are not sculpted and cast. These are 3D resin printed. They are digitally sculpted and then printed in a high resolution resin. I'll do a first person view so we can get a better image up front. But we have both of the heads here. I'm going to be assembling these figures. I may or may not paint them. These heads are in gray. I'm not going to use those for the figures. I do have two flesh tone heads that I'm going to use for the figures, as well as the flesh tone arms. But two complete figures. These are 100% sculpted digitally. And there's also a couple of really neat features I want to show you. But these are 100% sculpted digitally and then printed, 3D printed in a high resolution in resin. They have weight to them. They're heavier than what most of your resin cast figures will be. The reason I say that's a game changer is because the detail and definition that you can get out of these. Okay, here's one with the flesh tone head, the female torso. The detail that you and definition that you can get out of a 3D printed action figure is just amazing. It's a lot more than what we ever had with the 1980s O-ring style figures. Those lacked a lot of detail and definition, but man, these things are amazing. If you collect the 3.75 figures and you're into custom stuff, get a hold of Lone Wolf Toys. They're all over Facebook. See what they have to offer. There is a link in the description to their online store where you can purchase these, you can purchase other heads, you can purchase other figures. They do have more figures coming out. But another little neat detail, this is so tiny. We have here a Glock 17 3D resin printed. And this thing, when I was talking about the detail on this is ridiculous for the size. It's so small, but there's so much detail to it. And remember the molded holsters that would be on the thigh? Check this out. You have that printed holster there, but the gun fits in it. Look at this. Is that not badass? Is that not everything that we could have imagined when we were kids playing with the 3.75-inch G.I. Joe figures, the O-ring figures? I mean, this is something that would have been molded on and just been there for looks, but it functions. It's a holster that holds this tiny Glock 17, and this is a 3D resin print of a Glock 17. It's not just the shape of a gun. It's a Glock 17. And it fits right there in the thigh holster. I love this. This is fantastic. Now, there are no peg holes on the bottoms of the feet. These are molded boots, much like what Scarlett had, but there's just so much detail to them. And I'm not going to use figure stands anyway. These are going to go into clamshell cases. But, and like I said, I'm not sure if I'm going to print these or if I'm just going to leave them in the raw. Because I mean, they look cool as they are, even though I would love to paint them. I might have to get another set to paint like this. That's just, I think that for some reason, man, like the little holster that holds the realistic pistol, the Glock 17, just blows me away. I love that detail, and I think that it's awesome that he's adding these into the figures. And I've seen other figures where they have 3D printed holsters with realistic 3D printed guns as well. But 3D printing has come a long way. I remember seeing this stuff when it very first started out, available in outside of the commercial market, and was just available to anybody that wanted to buy one. Even some of the FDM or PLA printers, the detail on those is you still have a lot of the thick, heavy lines in whenever you're printing, but 3D resin printing, the detail is so fine that you really don't see the print lines. I mean, these, I don't know how long these took to print. I haven't talked to him. I haven't asked. I've talked to him, but I have not talked to him about that. I haven't asked about time frames for printing a figure like this, but imagine the possibilities. Everybody loves army builders. Everybody loves bats and troopers and vipers and whatnot, but think of what could be accomplished in the custom market with 3D printing, with 3D resin printing. But the detail on these is just so fine, especially they, like, the sculpting can have as much detail as you want. These can be as intricate and delicate as you could imagine them to be. I expected this holster to actually be kind of flimsy. It is not. It is not at all. And it's not an extra piece that's glued on. This looks like it's actually printed as part of the outer leg, which I think is a fantastic detail. I'm blown away by these. I was able to back up just a little bit to whenever I ordered this. What I had initially ordered was the all gray torsos and heads for these two figures, and I was going to purchase the rest of the bodies as they got finished up. They weren't finished, like the sculpting wasn't even done on these yet, and I ended up buying the rest of it, and I got the other heads to go with them, the ones that are flesh tone. That way, all that I'll have to paint is the eye and mouth details if I want to do that. I'm not sure how much I want to go into this. I'll have to paint the hair as well, of course, and it would be brown. But I mean, like, even down to the texture of the hair. I mean, it's just, these are amazing, and I can't wait to see some of the other stuff that Lone Wolf Toys puts out. And it's just, like I said, the possibilities are endless. So I'm going to assemble these figures. We'll go ahead and switch over to that now. We'll go ahead and start with the Zamot figure here. I've already removed the screw that came in the torso. That screw was a little bit tight, and I actually stripped out the head of the screw, removing it. So I will be replacing it with a screw that's intact and actually fits my screwdriver a little bit better. The screw, like I said, it was very tight. So let's see here. I'll also be using a thinner O-ring. I prefer these. They just, they're a little easier to work with and make me less nervous than having a body filled up with a bunch of rubber that could, you know the problems that can come along with that. So when assembling these, be careful to reference the original figures and make sure that you have everything on the correct side. And I've already separated out my parts to do that. So I know if this is different than how some of you assemble O-ring figures, you probably make fun of me and say that I'm wrong or something, but this is what works for me, so whatever. The arm in there. And this stuff's not super fragile or anything, but I definitely don't want to force any of it. I actually had the rivet work done on the arms by Jason Lucky with Lucky Treasures. He was kind enough to do that for me. We worked out a bit of a trade for that work, and there we go. I think that this material might be a little bit sticky. As you can see, I probably need to put a little drop of glue inside this arm, inside the two arm pieces here, to keep them from separating. I think that this would be plenty durable enough to be an action figure that you actually do stuff with, but I am not going to. These are purely for display. And as you can see, the arms rest in a very natural position. This is very well sculpted. The digital sculpt is very, very well done. And that's the great thing about digital sculpting, is that so much like this, so much of these details can be fine-tuned and proofed out in the digital sculpts. So you have that O-ring with the torso setting, and everything fits together so well too. Sometimes whenever you're dealing with resin cast figures, and I'm not knocking resin cast figures, I have several of them and I love them, but sometimes when you're dealing with resin casting, you'll end up with shrinkage, or you'll end up with some parts that kind of don't necessarily fit together the best. You'll have some gnarly thigh gaps, or torsos might not fit right, or you'll have to do some trimming to get the arms to where they will rotate or set right. Now, let's see if I can do this without breaking anything. I don't know. I know this stuff's durable, but I don't know exactly how durable it is. And there's a pretty big range of motion there for the head as well. Now, see the scratch marks that ended up right there on the neck. So I won't do that a whole lot. I won't be moving that around a lot. Like I said, it's purely for display anyway. But there's still the fact that that happens. These are supposed to be, as instructed with an instruction sheet that comes with the figures and parts, these are supposed to be washed in a mild detergent soap and warm water before you attempt to paint them. So let's see if we can get this screw in here without messing anything up. If I can find the hole, there we go. And that's just going to thread into the threads that were created with the original. And just hand tight. I'm not cranking that down or anything. I don't crank it down on any of my figures, even vintage figures. If I'm taking them apart, replacing an O-ring, I don't crank that screw down. There's absolutely no need for it. If you are having to crank a screw down to get the torso to close, then something is wrong. Something is obstructing that screw, and you need to figure out what's going on. The pistol, see how that fits in the hand here. I don't know how much flex there is to that, so I'm not going to put it in the hand. I know that it'll fit. There's enough space there for it, but I just don't want to risk breaking something and having to get it replaced. But I am going to put the pistol in the holster for display. Now let's take a look at the figure and see if she stands. And she does. She stands just fine. So we'll put her back here and go ahead and assemble Tomax, the female Tomax figure. And I like the fact that this head is here as well. I'll have that as just like a little extra in a bag inside the case with the figure. So we'll go through the assembly on this one. But like I said, big shout out to Lone Wolf Toys and Lucky Treasures both for making these come together for me. And I will include a link to where you can purchase your own set online. That link will be in the description. Ah, come on. There we go. real easy to put together. I am thoroughly impressed by the fit and finish of these figures. I just cannot say that enough. I can't get that point across enough of how well made these are. The prints are extremely high quality. The design, I mean, the design is just so well done. Come on, get in there. I know some people like to lay half the torso down flat to do that. I just don't prefer to do it that way. I'll crack it open a little bit and pop the arm in, close it back up, just try and keep everything aligned. It's just easier that way for me. Normally I can just pop that with the head, with the neck ball, but anyway. So there, she's assembled. Give her the new screw. Come on. Like I said, find the hole. And just gently get that started. And it'll find the threads. That's tight. And we're good to go on Tomax. Arm's a little bit loose. That's not a major concern to me. I could clamp the torso down a little bit tighter, and that arm will stay, as you can see here. I don't have a need for it to be in the upright position. I could actually probably tighten that screw just a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. So there she is, all assembled and ready to go. If I was going to paint these, I would completely disassemble them and paint each individual component separately, except for, of course, the arms, where you just have details down here on the gloves and the shoulder pauldron. But I would want to get a base coat. I would probably want to airbrush a base coat of the most prominent color on these figures, which is blue, and move from there in layers for each color. We'd go with the sash and the metallic silver for the armor piece and the pauldron. There's a lot that could be done with these paint wise and get a lot of really good looking detail. And like I said, I may end up having to get another set of them to do that with, and that actually sounds very enticing to do. So now that I can show you a little bit of a better up close view, let's go ahead and zoom in a bit here, and you can see all of this fine detail included in this figure. And you really can't see print lines very well at all unless you really, really look for them. Even down to the little ribbing on the boots. There's some print lines. And yeah, I'm probably if I end up getting a set of these to paint, I will close all of this up and put with a little drop of probably this stuff right here, the Gorilla Super Glue Gel. You don't want to put much on. You just want to put enough on to hold, to ensure that it's going to hold, and that's it. Don't overdo it with the glue, especially in a part like that where you could end up with that glue getting into the joint and seizing the joint. I actually have purchased some figures before that people had glued to hold things together and just did a shitty job with it and had some seized up frozen joints. But here they are, Tomax and Xamot together, female versions. I think that these are just amazing. These figures have captivated me, and reinvigorated an interest in custom stuff. The interest in custom stuff never really died off or anything. It just, in my mind, all that I can think with custom stuff is with the advancements made in 3D printers and printing, there's no reason why things like this can't become more and more commonplace with even more and more detail sculpted into them. And these have a considerable amount of detail for a 3.75 inch figure. Thanks for joining me on this, guys, and watching me assemble these figures. Be sure to hit up Lone Wolf Toys. The link to their online store is in the description for this video. Like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you think. And I'll see you again here soon. Yo, Joe!